This is Adam Al-Ghul. On Tuesday, he was shot and killed by Israeli forces in Jenin. He was just 8 years old. Coming up, we have news from Gaza, disputes over illegal immigration, a TikTok prankster whose skin colour is a greater determining factor to the media than his actions, and a look at the mortgage debt explosion about to rock the UK. I'm Harvey John, and this is the Critical Mass News Review for the 1st of December. The temporary pause in the Israeli devastation of Gaza is welcome, but questions must still be asked. Heartwarming pictures of Israeli hostages and Palestinian prisoners being reunited with their families have been circulating online and in the media. However, they must be seen alongside the hundreds of Palestinian families searching amongst the rubble for what is left of their homes, their possessions, and their livelihoods. The UN estimates that 280,000 homes in Gaza have been completely destroyed or damaged, some so severely that the homes are unfit to live. Our own Marilyn Tyzak of creatingsocialism.org has noted, "We cannot give up hope. But we also need more than hope if we are to prevent another 15,000 people losing their lives in the coming months. As the pause ends, Israel have made it clear they intend to finish the job. As Israeli Army Chief Herzi Halevi said last Saturday, "We will return immediately at the end of the ceasefire to attacking Gaza." Israel justifies its actions by stating its intent is to destroy Hamas, but are they destroying Hamas? What is plain to see is destroyed homes, businesses, schools and hospitals. Whether they are destroying Hamas is a different matter entirely. But the hard-right coalition, headed by Netanyahu, has another agenda: forcibly removing Palestinians from Gaza. Among the main advocates of this particular goal are Gira Gamliel, Israel's intelligence minister, who wrote in the Jerusalem Post, "Gaza is a breeding ground for extremism." She described Gaza as ruled by a Nazi-like regime, and then repeated Israeli propaganda as fact. Children were beheaded, families tortured in front of each other for entertainment of their captors before being burnt alive. There is no evidence that any of this actually happened. And most of it has been disproved. But the point is not to provide evidence of wrongdoing, but rather to pose the question of how to deal with Hamas and its supporters. The answer is clear. If 2 million Palestinians support Hamas, then they must be dispersed elsewhere. But where are 2 million people supposed to go? How will people with no limbs or children with no parents survive? For Israel, this is not questions they are asking. But without an answer to them, we are destined for further death and destruction. Continuing to speak of displacement, in the UK Parliament, Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer traded blows over immigration policy. Sunak faces criticism from within his own party for his failure to bring down immigration. Labour sees an open goal and have pledged to bring down immigration to figures way below those of the Tories. Writing for creatingsocialism.org, Mike Stanton points out that many of those included in the immigration figures are actually students, here on visas. They pay higher fees for the privilege of the UK education, worth a massive $34.7 billion to the Exchequer. Why would you be turning away that amount of money? Immigration is not debated on the basis that immigrants add to the well-being of the country. It's inevitably on the basis of the so-called harm immigrants do. In 2019, the Health Foundation reported that over 13% of the NHS workforce was made up of immigrants. Amongst doctors, it was even higher. Without immigrants, the NHS would collapse. As Stanton points out, students inevitably return home after they complete their studies, but those minorities who stay are amongst the best qualified people in the country. In 2020, Starmer, then trying to win the votes of Labour members to become their leader, said, "The whole of the UK is better because of immigration. And I think, if I'm honest, the Labour Party's been a bit scared of making the positive case for immigration for quite a number of years. Now he wants to be Prime Minister and blames immigrants for the very skills shortage they can help solve, feeding the right-wing press with the headlines and creating an environment of hate towards anybody who is from overseas. It is shameful politicking, and over the next year, as election fever takes hold, we expect it to get much worse. Immigrants, it seems, are not the only ones receiving hate this week, as TikToker Mizzy, known for his controversial pranks, has been arrested. Mizzy, real name Bakari Bronze Ogaro, is a North London-based content creator whose videos usually involve committing acts of criminal behaviour. Past videos have shown him assaulting members of the public, breaking and entering into strangers' homes, kidnapping animals, and approaching women on the street asking them, do they want to die? O'Gara's actions are criminal and cruel. In his sentencing, Judge Matthew Bones stated that his actions caused innocent members of the public significant harm and distress. However, O'Gara's treatment by the public has seemingly been heightened due to his skin colour. As a young black man, the prankster has faced a great deal of abuse online, with many comments abusing O'Gara for being a black man. The worse than this, O'Gara's appearance on Piers Morgan and Andre Walker have truly allowed for the abuse to come out. Both TV hosts, trained TV presenters, destroyed the young man's credibility, as O'Gara's naivety and immaturity allowed the host to portray him in an extremely negative light. Whilst it is more than fair to say the prankster deserves more than admonishment for his actions, by placing him on national TV, these networks are allowing O'Gara to be the cause and justification for racist comments and distrust and fear of black youths, as noted by Kelchi Ofar of iNews. Reprimanding an immature prankster, of which there are countless others on TikTok of all races, but being immature is hardly newsworthy. But when that prankster hasn't had any media training, is black, young, outspoken and shameless, it presents an opportunity not just for a cheap gotcha moment, but it lets racist viewers vicariously experience the thrill of furiously lambasting black people like him. Mizzy deserves the opportunity to change, to be told he did wrong and to be educated and reformed properly. However, given the rates of reoffending amongst black youths, it is unlikely he will receive this chance. Once more, the British media would rather create a reason for mistrust than open a dialogue which questions the source of what creates young men like O'Gara. Ignorance, it seems, is the card dealt by all sides. Speaking of ignorance, we return again to the subject of Gaza by Labour List, which has described itself as a critical friend to the Labour Party. But reading their coverage of Gaza, they seem to be more friend than critic, backing Starmer even when members of its own front bench and the 76% of the British population who supported a ceasefire couldn't. Labour List is a space where Labour MPs are provided a forum to put forward their views. Whilst there was a time when they seemed to want to balance the demands of left and right, with a Starmer policy of neutering the left entirely, Labour List has followed suit. Whilst it does do a good job of attacking the Tories and promoting non-controversial policies, it is not so good at promoting policies that might actually change things for the better. With the mini-budget last week, it was clear whose side Labour List was on. Business. Reporter Tom Berger enthusiastically endorsed Rachel Reeves' neoliberal economic agenda, citing a poll that, according to Labour List, vindicates Reeves' optimism about what voters make of her work. So far, it points out that in one poll recently, Keir Starmer was ahead of Rishi Sunak on who embodied the ability to build a strong economy. For Labour List, all that seems to really matter is whether Labour will win the next election. Whether they will do anything with that victory is less important for journalists who will clearly have easy access to ministers. On Gaza, Labour List has tended to excuse Starmer, saying that he has shifted his stance on the humanitarian impact of Israel having a right to defend itself. It never points out that Starmer only changed because he realised he might well be in breach of international law himself. He clearly has a problem with Islamophobia, as reported in the Ford report. But Labour-lists managed to find a poll suggesting that most Muslims would vote Labour regardless of Starmer's inability to call for a ceasefire. Again, they never even attempted to suggest that one poll, which actually contradicted numerous others, was hardly a ringing endorsement. But like good journalists everywhere, the reporters at Labour-lists don't let truth get in the way of a well-crafted narrative. We're not saying don't look at Labour-list. We certainly do. But that you should remember that far from being independent journalism, it appears to be a pro-Starmer apologist. And as the election gets closer, likely to be even more so. On a more personal home front, let's talk about mortgages. Have you got a mortgage? Or perhaps you're hoping to buy a house in the near future. Then you may be in for a major shock in the next few months. A report by the Institute for Fiscal Studies, which should be front page news, has found that the average mortgage could rise by over £300 per month as fixed rate mortgages come to an end. Nigel Davis, writing for creativeSocialism.org, notes that the vast majority of mortgage holders' fixed rates were set when it was 21 times lower than today. Many small landlords are either going to have to sell or increase rent. The result of this will be that millions of households will have to find money to spend on mortgages that they may not have. According to the IFS, 60% of those with mortgage, some 8.5 million adults, will have to spend more than a fifth of their income on the mortgage payments. And it's not just those with mortgages. If you are in rented accommodation, many renters will find that their landlords have a buy-to-let mortgage, meaning if mortgage rates rise, then so will rent. This is a housing time bomb, which nobody seems to want to discuss. But if the IFS are right, the recent rises in interest rates will see more people losing their homes in both the mortgaged sector and amongst renters who cannot afford additional rent. Don't forget, this Sunday you can read the latest edition of the Sunday Socialist, available for free from creativeSocialism.org. Make sure to follow us on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, and visit our website to sign up for our daily newsletter. Until next time, this is Harvey John, signing off.